Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name's Mel. Thank you so much for joining me today for basically a Heartstopper gush fest. I am joining the ranks of the many booktubers and many other YouTubers in general who are completely besotted with Heartstopper and just want to gush about it. I've been thinking about doing this video all day and I don't really 100% know exactly where to start to talk about why this is so amazing and why I just absolutely love it so much. But I think I'm going to start with the fact that it's actually a very new love for me. As you guys know, if you've been around for a little bit of time with me, I have been on BookTube for about 2.5 years now. So I've been hearing about Heartstopper by Alice Oseman, the graphic novels, for a really long time. I did read what I now have realized is probably about a quarter of the first volume on Webtoons probably about 1.5 years ago, and I thought it was cute, I thought it was sweet, but again, if you know me, you know that I'm really not much of a graphic novel reader. It's not kind of my area of interest particularly, but recently I've been trying to get a little bit more into graphic novels. Anyway, that's not the point. So I didn't really get into Heartstopper. It really wasn't something that particularly appealed to me because of the graphic novel aspect, but also, I mean, I'm still reading young adult stuff, don't get me wrong, but I'm generally not as keen on the more young adult contemporary side of things just because I really don't relate to that anymore. But anyway, as everyone knows, of course, the novels have been turned into a Netflix TV show, and obviously I'm going to watch something like that. I enjoy TV, so more than graphic novels. So yeah, it came out, it is Friday today, it's Thursday today, the 28th, I believe, yes, of April. So I think it came out last Friday. It's been out for like just under a week. I watched the first couple of episodes like fairly close to when it came out, probably Saturday, Sunday. And again, it was cute. I thought it was really sweet. Definitely wanted to watch it, but you know, I watched the first couple of episodes. At some point I'll get around to watching it. Anyway, this is another video that will probably get made at some point because I feel like it's needed, but I'm not going to go into details right now. But I'm not really doing that well. There's a lot of stuff going on and I'm not really doing that well. I had a bit of a, not even an argument, just a little bit of a something with my partner some point this week. I don't even know, maybe Tuesday evening, and it's fine, we're fine. But I just got really in my head and really upset, and once we'd sort of sorted it out, I was like, I just need to sit down and just watch something that is just happy and fun and sweet. Wasn't in the mood for reading. I'm often not in the mood for reading when I'm feeling really distressed. And so I thought, well, let's see, maybe I'll just watch some more Heartstopper, why not? And I watched the entire rest of the season. Now, of course, if you guys know, which I'm sure many of you, most of you, all of you do, it's only 8 episodes long, so that wasn't too difficult to do. But yeah, I sat down and watched the rest of the season. Again, I've been hearing about Heartstopper for a couple of years now, and I've been hearing the word wholesome as a description of Heartstopper for the entire time. And I was like, yeah, cool. But it is. It's just so wholesome. It's just so sweet. It's just so beautiful. It's just beautiful. Honestly, it is so... If you have not watched it yet, you should go and watch it. If you have Netflix. If you don't, you can come around to my house and watch it on my Netflix. So, what is Heartstopper? Like I said, it's a series of graphic novels. There are 4. I believe there might be a 5th one coming out, but at the moment there are 4 graphic novels, and it is the story of Nick and Charlie, who are 2 high school boys who meet because I think they know of each other, but they are in the same form, which I'm not 100% sure exactly how that works, but they're in different years at school, but they're in the same form group, which I guess is like a homeroom sort of thing, and they get assigned to sit next to each other and they meet and they form a really close friendship, and then they start dating, and it's just beautiful. It's just so sweet. Now, there is a lot in the series about all sorts of things to do with being queer in high school, coming out, all sorts of other things that high school students and people in general have to deal with. But unlike so many other TV shows and books and what have you that deal with issues when you're a teenager, despite the fact that it has all of those things in it, there's just something so wholesome and sweet and lovely and hopeful about this. So originally it was written online, so it was an online comic on Webtoons. Because I watched the entire bar 2 episodes, I might just let the helicopter go past. I have come outside because all the beautiful little leaves and stuff, animations and whatnot, I just thought it's the perfect place. Plus Rowan's in a meeting. So, unlike so many other books and shows and movies that are written for teenagers and representative of the teenage experience, if they are talking about LGBTQIA plus experience, they're often tinged with trauma and tinged with heartbreak and tinged with homophobia and all of the various things that queer people have to deal with. This is not shying away from it. It doesn't not touch on it, but it's just got such a hopeful, joyful feel to it. And I think that that's very important. And I've seen a lot of different people over the last, few years, but particularly over the last few weeks since the show's come out, that have been talking about how amazing it is to see queer joy and to see queer love and hope. And I just think that that is something that is just as important as the conversations around all of the trauma and all of the issues that come with living in a homophobic society. Like I said, I've been thinking about this all day and thinking about how to exactly structure this, so I have a lot of stuff I want to talk about, but just in terms of my own personal Heartstopper journey, I absolutely loved it, and then the next day watched the entire series all over again. I have also been reading the graphic novels on Webtoons, so I've read all of those now as well. I looked up on Spotify, and there is in fact a Spotify playlist, so of course I've been listening to that. I have very much steeped myself in Heartstopper over the last couple of days, and it's really been what I have needed. It's really been something that's just really been necessary for me, because like I said, I've been going through a lot myself recently, and absolutely none of it is in any way connected to anything that the people in Heartstopper go through or have or experience. My lived experience is very different from anyone in that show's for any number of reasons, but it's just been what I have so needed, just to see this incredibly hopeful, beautiful, touching show. I had a counselling session on Wednesday morning, and one of the things that my particular brand of anxiety does to my brain is that if I feel like I ought to be doing a different thing from what I'm doing, then I feel bad about it. I feel guilty for it. So watching a show that I've actually watched like twice already in a row within like the same 24-hour period is something I'm going to feel bad about. Anyway, talking to the counsellor about stuff, and she was kind of basically saying, you've been through a lot. You are not okay. It's okay to look after yourself. It's okay to just sit and watch this show. If that's what you need to do, then that's what you should do. So, I've already talked about how hopeful it is and how beautiful it is, and why that just has been something I have really needed over the last little while. Now I want to talk about a few other things about the show that is just absolutely amazing. I am a booktuber, as you know, but this is not really a book conversation, even though obviously I have now read the Webtoons, I'm up to date, and it's beautiful. I've loved that as well. I now know all the stuff that's going to come up beyond the television program, and it is beautiful, and I really, really enjoyed it. I really want to get all of the volumes, which at some point I will do as well, but this is mostly going to be about the TV show. Yeah. It's amazing. There are a few things about the TV show that I think is incredible and incredibly important. The first one being the representation. Now, I am not queer. I am a white, cis, straight woman. So I do not have the lived experience of anything that the kids in this show go through. I'm also 42, so I don't have the lived experience of living in the world that is existing now and having Instagram and Facebook and all of the things that make that microcosm of high school and that teenage experience actually a macrocosm, because when I was at high school, all the people that I knew and all the people in my school could talk about me, could make rumors about me, but we didn't have anything online. I mean, we barely even had an online, not in the same way we do now. So there was not going to be this concept of everyone at this other school, like we have with Higgs and Truham, where everyone at the other school knows all this stuff about me, where people can cyberbully me as well as physically bully me. So all of that, almost nothing about the experience of what happens in the television program, or in fact the graphic novels, although things are changing so rapidly that quite a lot of the stuff that's referenced has changed, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah, there's almost nothing about what their experience is that was in any way similar to what my experience was. Having said that though, the way that all of the concepts that are explored in this program are explored is done in such a way that I could really relate, even though nothing about the specific experience was relatable to me, if that makes sense. So I don't want to give too many spoilers in case you haven't watched or read, but there is a scene, or there's a few scenes, where one of the main characters, Nick, is trying to figure out who he is, what he wants, what's going on, and he's trying to express those feelings and those emotions, and the way that the character expresses that experience of not really knowing who you are and finding out that maybe you aren't quite who or what you thought you were, or you don't quite fit into a specific box that you have been put into by your peer group or society or yourself, and finding out how to be authentically you, and what even authentic you is, I think is a universal thing that we all go through in high school. But let me tell you, it doesn't stop at high school. Sorry. It doesn't stop when you're in your 20s, it doesn't stop when you're in your 30s, it doesn't seem like it's going to stop when you're in your 40s. It's just that things that you are thinking about, crises that you are having, potentially are different or happen in a different way. But that thing of trying to know who you are and what you want and how to be authentic and how to be yourself when you don't even know who you are yet. So relatable and so believable. And the actor playing Nick, Kit Connor, I think, was just an amazing actor. He did that so well. It was so believable. I really felt for the character Nick as he was going through all of these things. Having said that, of course, the other main character, Charlie, is played by an amazing actor as well, Joe Locke, who is also fantastic and also plays Charlie incredibly well and plays all of Charlie's insecurities and all of Charlie's issues and everything incredibly well as well. And it's just, I really feel like the cast are amazing. Every single person who is in this television program is cast perfectly. They really personify these characters and they really give this amazing depth to these characters, and I'm really incredibly impressed with all of the actors. Now, as I've said, I read the graphic novels since I've watched the show, so I don't have that long-standing relationship with Heartstopper, with the characters, and potentially I'm sure that there's going to be people who are in some way disappointed or, don't agree with some of the choices that were made, some of the changes that were made, some of the characterizations that were done. So I can understand if people feel that way, because obviously, you're never going to hit, no one's ever going to be able to hit exactly how you imagined a character on the head. But for me, they did it perfectly, and that's because this was really my first introduction to those characters properly. Which leads me into another thing about the way the TV show was put together and done, which I think was perfect. And that is the fact that they are teenagers. The teenagers are teenagers. Now, I think that one of them potentially was played by a woman in her early 20s, but for the most part, they are teenagers, and the two main characters were played by 18-year-olds. There is something so very refreshing about having teenagers play teenagers for a number of reasons. First of all, because I feel like it is something that teenagers are going to relate to so much more, because they'll be able to see themselves in those characters so much more. I know when I was a teenager, when I was in my early teens, I used to watch Degrassi. There's been a more updated version, I think, in the noughties, but the old school Degrassi started as Degrassi Kids, which was a thing when I was a kid, and then Degrassi Junior High when I was around the right age, and then, you know, the same age as them, and then Degrassi High. And the characters, again, were played by teenagers. Now, I'm sure they were a couple of years older than the characters were, as Joe and Kit are. I remember as a teenager watching this television program with teenagers in it, and they looked like me and my friends did. You know, they had pimples, they were gangly, their noses were too big for their face, you know, all of the things that as a teenager is how it is, because you're going through all these massive changes, you are going through puberty, you have all of these different skin conditions and all of this stuff. You don't feel like you fit in your body yet. It's nice to see people who look like you look, who embody what you're going through in their bodies. And I think that's incredibly important. I think that's another thing that's incredibly important about this show. It is so relatable in that way. And I think that it can be very problematic when teenagers are watching these television programs that are about teenagers and the actors playing the roles of teenagers are in their 30s, because it sets up this totally unachievable expectation on the actual teenagers about what they should look like and how they should sound and behave, because they're never going to look like 30-year-olds, because they're not. They're in their teens. They're going to have pimples and acne and face issues. They're going to have bodies that are changing and growing. They're going to be gangly or put on a bunch of weight and then lose it because they suddenly grow super tall, etc. You know, they're not in their 30s. They shouldn't look like they're in their 30s. So it was really refreshing to see these actors who were, I mean, they're a few years older, like I said, but who look like it is believable that they are 15, 16. They look like, if they're not 15 now, they certainly weren't that long ago. And I think that's a really important thing, because I think that really shows these teenagers how to be teenagers. It's an authentic something that they can relate to. It doesn't create these problematic expectations. I actually watched a little interview on YouTube with Kit Connor and Joe Locke, Nick and Charlie, and apparently a few different people commented when the casting was first announced about how it was so good to see that they had not employed traditionally attractive people for the roles. And I just thought to myself, that's not an appropriate way of expressing that, because they're not, or that it was nice to see unconventional attractive people in the roles, but it's not that these actors are unconventionally attractive, it's that they are teenagers. They look like teenagers. For me, it is nice to watch a bunch of teenagers be teenagers because it's realistic. But also, for someone who is in their late 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, there's a real weird disconnect when you're watching a television program that is supposed to be about teenagers or even people in their early 20s, and the actors are so obviously older than that. And like I said, maybe in their 20s, maybe in their 30s. Oftentimes, though, they are in their 30s. Sometimes I find myself watching this show about teenagers and kind of, you know, you kind of feel like they're pretty cute, they're attractive, and then it's like, wait a minute. They're supposed to be teenagers. What am I doing? I'm in my 40s. I can't find... It's just this weird thing. Like, you just feel really... What the hell? Like, it's not okay, you know. But then of course you look it up and you say, oh, they're 35, it's fine. But still, they're playing the role of a teenager, and that's where you saw them. Watching Heartstopper, they're cute kids, and I literally genuinely thought to myself, these kids are cute kids, these are nice kids. I found myself wishing I could be one of the teachers, thinking to myself, when I have teenagers of my own, when I'm a parent to teenagers, I want those kids to be like these kids. For me personally, as a 42-year-old woman, it was nice to not have that weird kind of disconnect and just be able to go, that is a nice kid, that's a good kid, good job, Mum. Watching the scenes with Nick and his mum, so Kit, and Olivia Colman, I was like, yeah, I want to be Olivia Colman. Like, I want to be Nick's mum. Like, not like, this is a nice kid, you know? I don't know if that makes any sense. And hopefully that wasn't too weird of a thing to say. Anyway, moving right along into some more aspects of representation, and that is the fact that the trans character is played by a trans woman. So I think that is very important. I think that when you are representing someone or a group of someones or what have you, particularly when they are incredibly marginalized in society, it's so important to have that representation be genuine. So we talk about this in the booktube community all the time. We talk about the fact that it's important to read a book by own voices. It's important to have books about queer characters or autistic characters or what have you who have been reviewed favourably by own voices reviewers, wherever possible have been written by own voices authors. So I'm not certain what Alice Oseman, who wrote the original graphic novel series, what their situation is. Not that it's got anything to do with me at all, but I've heard nothing, again, since I started doing booktube and heard about Heartstopper, I've heard nothing but amazing things about the representation, and I think that it was reflected in the way the show was put together, the actors that were chosen, and particularly when it came to Elle, the trans character, who is played by someone whose name I have forgotten. Let me just look that up because I was looking into that not long ago. Yasmin Finney. So yeah, I think that's incredibly, incredibly important. I don't know about anyone else's situation, sexuality or anything like that, but in terms of the trans character, I think that it was really important to have a trans actor play that role. The final thing that I want to gush about is to do with the cinematography of the show, but in particular the way that some of the cinematography reflected the graphic novels. And I believe that Alice Oseman was a producer on the show, so I think that was fantastic because obviously it's their creation and it's great that they were consulted in such an important way. But yeah, so throughout the television program there are a number of different little nods to the graphic novel in terms of the setting and the sets. There is, I believe, Charlie's room is pretty much set up exactly how it is in the graphic novels, even down to the posters and whatnot on the walls. There are scenes lifted almost word for word from the graphic novel and put into the show. I think that in Charlie's room there are a few books, other of Alice Oseman's books. I'm pretty sure one of the other characters, Isaac, was reading Radio Silence maybe in one of the scenes. He has a book with him all the time, which is something obviously as a big book lover I thought was fantastic as well. But also in various scenes there are little animations in there. So the graphic novel has a lot of like little leaves dotted throughout, circling around their heads. It's really incredibly cute, and part of the reason why I'm outside is a nod to the leaves. But yeah, so that's kind of one of the things it's known for. Each time there is an attraction between any of the characters, there is these little leaves and little butterflies kind of fluttering around. There's a scene where Nick really wants to hold Charlie's hand and he's kind of trying to figure out whether he should do that or not, and there's like little sparks animated in connecting the two hands, and just little things like that which are a nod towards the graphic novels, which I thought was really beautiful. Partly because it's just beautiful to watch, it's just a really nice touch, but partly because it's, I think, a really good nod towards the graphic novel, because it's acknowledging that this book series has such important place in so many people's hearts. And I mean, you know, a lot of us love a good adaptation. I love a good adaptation, but so many of the adaptations that I love are not necessarily a direct word for word adaptation like a lot of Heartstopper is. Not all of it, but a lot. But also it just really added to that feeling of wholesome, sweet hopefulness that I just think is the thing about this show that is so beautiful and touching and important. And those little animation, those little nods towards Alice Oseman and their amazing work just really added to that feeling of beauty and wholesomeness and, like I said, loveliness. So I thought that was incredibly well done. Also, incidentally, the soundtrack's amazing. So go find that on Spotify because it's fantastic. But yeah, so I feel like I could probably go on gushing about how amazing Heartstopper is, but I think that I will bring it to a close now because I've kind of touched on all the things that I really thought were important or specifically beautiful. Scratch that. Yeah, editing Mel here. Just jumping in to say that I forgot to mention Nellie, the gorgeous, gorgeous dog that is so incredibly important to the character of Nick, and just such a cute dog and really adds to the tone of the show. But also, I don't think the connection between the two main characters would have really occurred in the way that it did without Nick's dog. So just wanted to jump in and give a little nod. I feel like it really came at exactly the right time for me personally. Like I said, I'm going through a lot at the moment. I'm not going to go into details about that here because that's not relevant. I really felt like I needed something that was just sweet and lovely and wholesome and hopeful. And also it's school holidays right now, so I can just watch a show and not have to worry about the fact that I ought to be doing whatever. But yeah, so that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about for the show and for Heartstopper and gush about and tell you about why I love it. So I guess comment below if you have anything you'd like to add. Have you seen the show? Did you love it? Have you read the graphic novels? Do you love them? Yeah, so comment below any thoughts that you have about this video, about Heartstopper, in general. If you would like to leave me a comment but you don't know what, then leave me a little leaf emoji. All of my social media details are listed in the description below, so if you'd like to go and follow me on any of those other platforms, please feel free to do so. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would absolutely love it if you would subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. And yeah, like I said, thank you so much for watching. I really do hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.